Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we delve into the depths of human experience, navigating the complexities of our shared past. Today, we embark on a journey to the trenches of World War I to explore one of the most pivotal and devastating battles in modern history, the Battle of the Somme. This cataclysmic event, which unfolded in the summer of 1916, would leave an indelible mark on the world, forever altering the trajectory of human conflict. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in June 1914 had sparked a global conflagration, drawing in nations from across the globe. The intricate web of alliances and entangling obligations had created a perfect storm, which would eventually engulf the world in a maelstrom of violence. In the early months of the war, the German army had made significant gains, pushing deep into French territory and reaching the outskirts of Paris. However, the arrival of winter in 1914 brought a measure of stability to the front lines, as both sides dug in, constructing elaborate networks of trenches that would become synonymous with the horrors of modern warfare. As the spring of 1915 gave way to summer, the Allies began to contemplate a major offensive aimed at breaking the stalemate and pushing the Germans back. The British Expeditionary Force, led by General John French, had been bolstered by the arrival of fresh troops from across the empire, including Canada, Australia, and India. Meanwhile, the French army, under the command of General Joseph Joffre, was still reeling from the devastating losses suffered during the opening months of the war. In the autumn of 1915, a new commander, General Douglas Haig, took the reins of the British Expeditionary Force, bringing with him a reputation for caution and meticulous planning. Haig's appointment marked a significant shift in British strategy as he began to prioritize a major offensive on the Western Front, aimed at relieving pressure on the French army and weakening the German grip on Europe. As the winter of 1915 to 1916 slowly receded, the Allies launched a series of smaller-scale attacks designed to test German defenses and identify potential weaknesses. The village of Neuve-Chapelle, in northern France, became the site of one such battle, as British troops clashed with German forces in a brutal and inconclusive fight. Although the battle ultimately ended in stalemate, it provided valuable lessons for Haig and his staff, who began to refine their plans for a larger-scale offensive. In the spring of 1916, the Allies gathered at the Chantilly Conference, where they agreed on a comprehensive strategy for the upcoming campaign season. The French and British armies would launch coordinated attacks on the Western Front, aimed at pinning down German forces and preventing them from responding effectively to the Russian army's anticipated offensive on the Eastern Front. The Somme River, which flowed gently through the rolling countryside of northern France, would soon become a symbol of sacrifice and devastation as hundreds of thousands of young men from across the globe prepared to clash in a maelstrom of steel and fire. In the months leading up to the battle, the British Army had been engaged in a frenzy of activity as engineers and laborers worked tirelessly to construct tunnels, dugouts, and trenches along the front lines. The village of Albert, with its iconic basilica and war-damaged church, became a hub of military activity as troops poured into the area, eager to play their part in the impending battle. As June gave way to July 1916, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense as soldiers from all walks of life, from the streets of London to the farms of rural Canada, steeled themselves for the ordeal ahead. The sound of artillery fire echoed across the landscape, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the trenches. And yet, despite the looming specter of death and destruction, there was a sense of anticipation, even optimism, among the troops who believed that this battle might finally bring an end to the war and restore peace to a shattered world. As the clock struck 7:30 a.m. on July 1, 1916, a sense of eerie calm settled over the trenches, punctuated only by the distant rumble of artillery fire and the nervous chatter of soldiers awaiting the signal to advance. The British Army, arrayed along a 20-mile front, stood poised on the brink of one of the most disastrous days in military history. Along the Somme Valley, from the village of Gamicourt in the north to the hamlet of Fourreau in the south, waves of troops climbed out of their trenches, shouldering heavy packs and grasping rifles as they began their slow, agonizing march into no man's land. The first wave of attackers, comprising men from the British 29th Division, stepped out into a maelstrom of machine gun fire, which cut them down like wheat before a scythe. The Germans, huddled in their deep, fortified bunkers, unleashed a withering hail of bullets upon the advancing troops, who stumbled and fell in droves. As one soldier recalled, "The ground was covered with bodies, some of them still alive, but most of them dead, and all of them lying there, helpless, in the open." The once green fields were now churned into a bloody quagmire as the cries of the wounded mingled with the staccato bursts of gunfire. At Beaumont Hamel, the 1st Battalion, Newfoundland Regiment, suffered catastrophic losses, with over 700 men killed or wounded in a matter of minutes. The survivors, dazed and stunned, stumbled back to their trenches, leaving behind a trail of broken bodies and shattered equipment. As the day wore on, the carnage only intensified, with wave after wave of British troops being fed into the meat grinder of the German defenses. By mid-morning, the battlefield was a scene from hell, with smoke billowing across the landscape and the stench of death hanging heavy in the air. As the sun beat down upon the carnage-strewn fields, General Douglas Haig, commander of the British Expeditionary Force, remained resolute in his determination to press on despite the mounting losses. On July 2nd, the fighting continued unabated as British forces launched fresh attacks against the German lines. At Ovelers, the 17th Battalion, King's Royal Rifle Corps, fought its way into the village, only to be cut off and surrounded by a counterattacking German force. The survivors were forced to surrender, adding to the already staggering tally of British prisoners. As one German officer noted, "The Tommies are brave fellows, but they are no match for our machine guns and artillery." The battle was becoming a war of exhaustion, with both sides grinding each other down in a relentless struggle for supremacy. As the days turned into weeks, the Somme became a byword for slaughter and futility. On July 14th, the British launched a major assault on the German lines at Longueval, but were repelled with heavy losses. The village of Delville Wood, a key stronghold in the German defenses, was the scene of some of the most intense fighting, as British troops clashed with their opponents in a maze of shattered trees and trenches. "It's a bloody awful place," one soldier wrote, "where you can't tell friend from foe, and the only thing that matters is staying alive." As the days turned into weeks, the Somme became a byword for slaughter and futility. On July 14th, the British launched a major assault on the German lines at Longueval, but were repelled with heavy losses. The village of Delville Wood, a key stronghold in the German defenses, was the scene of some of the most intense fighting, as British troops clashed with their opponents in a maze of shattered trees and trenches. "It's a bloody awful place," one soldier wrote, "where you can't tell friend from foe, and the only thing that matters is staying alive." The battle continued to drag on, with both sides suffering heavy casualties, until finally, on November 18, 1916, the British launched their final attack, capturing the village of Beaumont Hamel, but at a cost of over 50,000 casualties. The Battle of the Somme ultimately ended in a stalemate, with neither side able to achieve a decisive victory. The British had gained a few miles of territory, but at a cost of over 400,000 casualties, including more than 100,000 killed. The Germans had also suffered heavily, with estimates suggesting that they lost over 500,000 men. The battle marked a turning point in the war, as both sides began to realize the true horrors of modern warfare and the devastating consequences of trench warfare. In the years following the battle, the Somme became a symbol of the futility and tragedy of war. The battlefields were left scarred and barren, a testament to the destruction and devastation that had occurred. The cemeteries and memorials that dot the landscape today are a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by so many young men. As one historian noted, the Somme was a battle that changed the course of history, but it also changed the way we think about war and its consequences. Today, the Battle of the Somme is remembered as one of the most significant and devastating battles in human history. It is commemorated annually on July 1st, with ceremonies and services held at the cemeteries and memorials along the Somme Valley. The battle has also been the subject of numerous books, films, and documentaries, each seeking to capture the essence and horror of the conflict. As one veteran of the battle noted, "We must never forget the sacrifices made by so many young men, and we must always strive to create a world where such conflicts can never happen again." The legacy of the Battle of the Somme continues to be felt today, with its impact evident in the way we think about war and its consequences. The battle marked a turning point in the development of modern warfare, as military leaders began to realize the importance of new technologies and tactics. It also had a profound impact on the social and cultural fabric of society, as the loss of so many young men led to a fundamental shift in the way we think about sacrifice and duty. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that, to understand the present, we must first understand the past.